going on, Jerome's? Minnesota Vikings general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah definitely needs to start racking up and stacking up some hits in the NFL draft, and I think that they might have an opportunity where the 2022 draft, 2023 a little bit better if you include Ivan Pace Jr. and 2024. Could be here, and also the Vikings could and should find their quarterback of the future, so the things are looking on up. So we are going to do a 7-round Vikings mock draft. This is the slow ride, take it easy version. So our scenario, Kirk Cousins. The Vikings fight the good fight. They make a good offer, but at the end of the day, it just can't compare with what he potentially could get elsewhere. So Kirk leaves, leaving the $28.5 million dead on the books for his void year hit. And Mullins is in as a bridge quarterback. Now, the Vikings could bring in a mid-tier veteran. Sam Darnold's been talked about. Gardner Minshew, sure. I don't think they bring in a guy like Baker. Like, if Kirk is going to leave, I think that they go cheap, and then go all in for the quarterback of the future. I don't think that they just get a veteran Band-Aid in terms of $35-40 million per year. I just don't see that. JJ is extended. Daniil re-signed. Reisner, Jordan Hicks, Brandon Powell re-signed. Harrison Smith retires. Our guy, man. Then in free agency, the Vikings with some cash to throw around, Christian Wilkins and L'Jarius Sneed. 2-time Super Bowl champion. Welcome on in. You are Minnesota Vikings. Or Sneed 3. And it does matter. But, yeah, keep your helmet on, man. But Wilkins reunited with Brian Flores, and it feels so good. So, Vikings edge rusher, box checked. Defensive tackle, box checked. Cornerback, box checks. A cornerback is important. So, like we said, we're doing this. I just want to take it nice and slow. What up, Ursher? So, first up at 11, Vikings sticking and picking J.J. McCarthy, Dynamite. Now, what's funny is PFF has been really hyping up J.J. McCarthy, but how do we get an F-, man? I don't get it. Like, J.J. McCarthy could be a top 10 pick, but he's 6'3", 202, 21 on January 20th. Got mobility. He's got that clutch gene. Was held back by the Michigan run-first offense, as well as Michigan being in blowouts all the time. But does have a big arm, does have accuracy at all three levels, has played in a pro-style system, is extremely competent with operating in play action, which is also big in Kevin O'Connell's offense that we've seen with Kirk Cousins. So McCarthy, is it a spot where you just rip the Band-Aid off and put the kid out there? He's in a good situation with weapons. Like this is much more a C.J. Stroud situation than a Bryce Young situation in Carolina. So, hell, at this point, if Mullins is your bridge quarterback, whatever. J.J. McCarthy starting week 1. Go ahead. Next up, in the second round, 42 overall, Braden Fiske coming out of Florida State. And he's a guy that really showed up and showed out in the Senior Bowl. He was a problem. He was an absolute problem. He's 6'3", 297, was originally at Western Michigan. Back in the day, the OG original rowed the boat, took his talents to Florida State, and he and Jared Verse along that defensive line, man, big time reason why Florida State had a top tier defense as well as went 13-0. Had 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and he was just that rock solid meat potatoes heart and hustle defensive tackle. Now could thicken out a little bit as well as could be a little bit better against the run. But Fiske as well as Jaquelin Roy, I think gives the Vikings a pair of really fun young 3-tech, 4-tech type players. Also throwing Christian Wilkins, I think we'll be good to go. Next up into the 4th round, Vikings don't have a third because of the Hawkinson trade. So Marist Liufau coming in from Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame is cranking out some pretty good linebackers nowadays. And Marist, 6'2", 239. He does have the heart and hustle. He is a scheme versatile type guy. If you want to take a player that's kind of similar to Josh Metellus and could be used similarly, I think Marist is that guy. 25 pressures, 3 sacks, completely versatile at Notre Dame last year. Also played a lot of high-end special teams, and so he is going to contribute to the Vikings in a number of ways. Next up in the 4th round, defensive interior, the nose tackle from Northern Iowa, Christian Boyd. I like this one. So Christian Boyd, he's 6'2", 320, and he's a leanish 320. Yeah, you know what I mean? Where you look at guys like Linval Joseph, like you look at some defensive tackles that are 310 and they look 310, but 310 and just muscular, especially up in the torso, sort of like Linval Joseph. Now, I'm not saying that Christian Boyd it is Linval Joseph, but I think that he could be Linval adjacent. And he completely shined at the Shrine Bowl, looked really good. And at Northern Iowa, posted an 88.1 grade, 40 pressures, 3 sacks, 24 run stops. And he is a true one tech. He is a true controlling the A gaps, absorbing multiple bodies. I think that he would be the day one starter at nose tackle and be able to give some flexibility to Harrison Phillips as well as Christian Wilkins. And then you got Jaquelin Roy, Brandon Fiske around there as well. I think that goes a long way in securing the Vikings' defensive line issues. Next up, 5th round, running back Will Shipley. So I like him coming out of Clemson. He's 5'11", 210. True junior, just turned 21 years young. Career 2,748 yards on the ground, 31 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry. His 2022 season was a little bit better than 2023, but also he is a plus receiver. And if you're going to pick a receiver that is going to be lining up all over the place, like, could you call Will Shipley a Jahmyr Gibbs light? Sure. Also posted 65 catches, 602 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And given the Vikings' rumored interest in Jahmyr Gibbs last year, a guy like Will Shipley does fit the bill. Could you say that he's a little bit of a carbon copy of Ty Chandler? Sure. But also, if you're going to have one, may as well have two completely dynamic, shifty playmakers out of the backfield. Second pick in the 5th round. Wide receiver Isaiah Williams coming out of Illinois. So Williams is 5'10", $185, was a 5-year player at Illinois, so a little bit older of a prospect. But first team All Big Ten this year, 62 catches, 1,055 yards, 5 touchdowns. Wiry, smooth route runner. He's not going to be a contested catch dude, but he can get separation quickly, as well as he does have a vertical press ability coming up the seams and on the outside. I think he would be a nice wide receiver 3 or 4 in the Vikings scheme. So him, Brandon Powell, maybe Jalen Naylor get some of that work behind JJ as well as Jordan Addison. Last of the 5th round picks. They're projected for this is more like a 6th round pick, whatever. But safety James Williams. So I don't know what it is. I love me like some tall physical freak safeties. Like I like Jaron Kearse when he was a 7th round pick out of Clemson. I love me some Miles Killebrew. Miles Killebrew is weird. Where I want to say he was like Central or like Southern Utah, like some weird directional Utah school. And the whole thing was like, oh, he's 6'4" and he's 230. But then at the combine, he was like 6'2", 210. But Killebrew's turned himself into a really solid third phase safety with the Steelers. But Killebrew, Jeremy Chin, Southern Illinois, I loved him too. But James Williams is a dude. Now you could say, oh, the Vikings are good at safety. Yeah, Flores loves him, multiple safeties, and with Harrison retiring, plus gives you a little bit of Lewis Cine insurance as well. But James Williams is a dude, man. I love him. That's just the U being the U. So James Williams, 73 tackles, 1 pick, 5 passes broken up, 2 forced fumbles this season. He is 6'5", he is 215. You could probably add some weight and be a weak side linebacker. I think his versatility is going to be an absolute plus. He is long, tough, physical, and a plus in coverage as well. I think that he is a great get at this stage. And frankly, if the Vikings would have just picked him in the 4th round, I wouldn't have been mad either. Last of the 6. So edge rusher Jalen Harrell coming out of Michigan, where a little bit less heralded than some of the recent Michigan studs on the edge, but he's 6'4", 242, true stand-up outside linebacker, 9 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks this year. I think that he will be a situational pass rusher. Probably won't be a 3-down guy. I think that he's probably not going to fill out and be solid against the run enough to be a true starter, but in terms of a rotational platoon pass rusher, abso-freaking-lutely. As a sort of a unique the freaking Ngakoue light, I think that he could be that. He's twitched up, got a great first step, and also I think that he has a lot of traits that are very moldable for a guy that could be a very quick contributor for the Vikings. Lastly, 7th round pick, 230. So Tanner Bortolini, the center from Wisconsin. Now, yes, waited till the end to get an interior offensive lineman. Fully understand that, but I feel like we checked a lot of boxes, a lot of needs, and rebuilt that bully on the defensive line. But Tanner is really interesting. So he's 6'4", 310. Of course, the stereotype Wisconsin offensive lineman. But what's really important is that Bortolini was there in the old regime where meat, potatoes, gap, north, south, run first offense in Wisconsin, and he transitioned to Luke Fickell's air raid scheme, and he blocked in both schemes extremely well. So 2022, he was interior offensive line starter, left guard, center, right guard. His versatility is key. Posted a 74.3 grade. And then last year with the air raid, became the full-time starting center, called out line protections, and was a great leader in the middle in Madison, and only 1 sack allowed. So I think that he's a guy that adds a little bit of size, adds some versatility, adds some high football IQ to the mix, and also he's scheme agnostic, so I think that he's a really solid pick, even though he's a stupid Badger, in the 7th round here for the Vikings. So, I mean, overall, laying out the scenario, basically the big one is Kirk walked, and JJ and Daniil were back, Reisner back, Hicks back, Powell back, blah, blah. Signed Christian Wilkins and L'Jarius Sneed in free agency. So the Vikings get the quarterback the future with JJ McCarthy. Just start him. Just start him. Let's kickstart my heart. Let's get the get the clock going with him. Then you got Fiske, Christian Boyd along the defensive line. I love it, man. Leo Fau is as well going to contribute to the linebacker room. You got Hicks back. So, I mean, you wouldn't be pressing him into starting duty right away. Just said duty. Also, hopefully, you get a little something out of Asamoah. Hopefully, he stays healthy this year. Shipley, yeah, I get that stylistically. Probably a lot of crossover with Ty Chandler. Maybe look for a short yardage back, but I don't know. Maybe bring in A.J. Dillon for the Packers. Who knows? Isaiah Williams is a nice, twitchy wide receiver, 3-4 from Illinois. I like pairing him up with the rest of the wide receiver crew. And James Williams. I like James. I mean, James Williams is like, he's 6'5", 215, and he's super physical. Really gets after it and plays downhill. I think that he would be very fun with what Flores wants to do with him. Also would be plus on special teams. Like, can you just block PATs? Sure. Jalen Harrell, rotational edge rusher, and Tenor Bortolini, adding some depth into the interior offensive line. So overall, like, I feel pretty good. Although, why PFF give me an F- for McCarthy? It's funny, man. But that's it. That's 7th-round Vikings mock draft. I just want to take it nice and slow. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.